And so physically, I was able to recover very quickly. Whereas when I was having the stroke, everything on the left side of my body was completely paralyzed. But as soon as I had the clot removal surgery, I was already starting to make some improvements. It only took me a few months to get everything back physically. But what I didn't expect was the mental health fallout of everything I'd been through. When you have a brain injury, a lot of times the biochemistry of your brain can change. And mine changed in such a way that I ended up with horrible, debilitating anxiety and depression and had to be hospitalized again for those conditions, not from stroke related physical disabilities.
What is the thing or things that you've had to quit in order to become successful?
I certainly had to quit
thinking it was too
the
big.
person that I was to get here.
being afraid that I was going to make mistakes. I quickly learned that the road to success is paved with failure.
Would you rather spend a weekend camping in the woods or in an comfortable boat?
In a comfortable boat, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No seasickness. Yeah, I would probably choose the same. Would you rather watch the sunrise or the sunset?
I'm an early morning person, so probably the sunrise.
Nice. Would
I
you
love
rather
them both.
own the what?
I said I love them both, but if I had to pick, probably sunrise because I'm an early riser.
Yes. Would you rather own a pot with fresh flowers or a beautiful small cactus that you didn't have to water?
Probably a cactus because I have difficulty keeping any plants alive whenever I've tried.
Yeah, I always think they're so beautiful, but then it's like, they die quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Successful Quitters. And this is a podcast where we explore the thing or things individuals have had to quit in order to become successful in their arena. Today we have someone that is amazing, and I won't give that, her bio is long, but I want to simplify it because I want you to hear her story from her and listen to this amazing life experience and life journey. She is a certified life purpose, confidence, and happiness coach, and she is the author of the book Rise, Mastering the Art of Resilience. Thank you and welcome to this podcast, Angie Read.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Angie, let's go right into this. What was Angie like at 5 years old? Who were you surrounded by, and where did you live at that time?
Let's see, at 5, I would have been living in a small town in Iowa. Had 2 older sisters who kind of just, I don't know, older sisters, they were big influence on me. But I was always kind of a very outgoing, kind of headstrong, creative, just ball of energy.
Who were you the closest to, your mom or your dad, or was it both?
My parents had gotten divorced when I was 4, and I lived mostly with my mom. I was probably closer to my mom. My dad kind of got remarried really quickly and started raising my step siblings and wasn't spending as much time with my sisters and I. So I probably closer to my mom. Yeah.
Do you remember having a hero back then?
Probably not when I was 5. My hero became my stepfather when my mom got remarried when I was 9.
That's amazing. Good to hear. How powerful is it that someone can step into your life and really take the responsibility and give the love that a child needs to be nurtured? That's amazing.
Yeah, very powerful. Very powerful.
Sometimes it's hard for parents.
Yeah, he was only in my life for 6 years because he passed away when I was 15, but he had a profound impact on my life in between 9 and 15.
Yeah. Wow. And what were you like while in high school? Were you outgoing, still creative? Did you keep to yourself? What was it like?
No, I was very outgoing. I was involved in all the clubs. I did everything. I was popular. I was really focused on my grades, getting good grades, being talented in music. I played the piano and the oboe, and I played the oboe well enough to earn myself a scholarship to college. But I was just very, very involved. I had my fingers in everything in high school.
Wow. You spoke about your stepfather passing away. How was the mourning at that age? Because you were entering high school, right? Or you were what were you, a
Yeah,
sophomore back then?
I was a freshman in high school. Yeah. So what
You
was the question?
What was it for you? How did you deal with, because you said that at that point he was your hero. So how was it to go from having him to him not being there anymore? At that age where you're trying to figure yourself out, so many new things. What was
Yeah,
it like for you?
it was a really tough time because at the same time, I almost lost my best friend who was in a very serious car accident about 3 months after my stepdad passed away. And so I just felt like I was surrounded by trauma and just, horrible things happening. And I kind of lost touch with reality for a little while. I didn't really know how to cope. My mom wanted to get me into counseling. In fact, she got me into counseling, and I didn't feel like I connected with my therapist. And I was a 15-year-old. I didn't feel like anybody understood me, and uh, and I wasn't expressing myself, quote unquote, the way you're supposed to. I didn't cry outwardly as much as people expected me to. I kind of kept it all bottled in, but I was definitely grieving so much. And a lot of it came out a few years later when it just festered. And then when I went to college, I had a really tough time dealing with it. I don't know, maybe I compartmentalized it.
Yeah. And it's great to hear from you because you went through it, but a lot of times because you're growing up and trying to figure out who you want to be in this world for the rest of your life once you finish high school. So many thoughts and so many things happen within that age that, that can be that crucial time where you go the right way or the wrong way, where you hopefully find the right support so that you can continue to move on a positive path. And then you went to college. And what career did you choose? What was your major?
Well, it's funny because I didn't do anything in my major when I graduated from college, really. My major was music because I got a scholarship in music. I didn't really know what else I wanted to do when I was 18. I knew I was good at music. So I just figured since I'm good at it, I might as well pursue that as my career. But I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of college. I just knew I wanted a college degree. There weren't a lot of choices in the music education field at that time. Now there are so many more choices if you want to pursue a path in music education. My choices back then were really music education, so I could have become an orchestra or a band instructor and didn't really want to do that. I tried that for like a semester and I realized pretty quickly, nope, I don't have the patience for that. And then I could be a performance major where I was trying to make it into a national symphony orchestra or trying to pursue performance as a profession. But it was too stressful. I didn't want to do that. Also, I played the oboe, which is every orchestra only has about 2 oboists, and so you almost have to wait for somebody to die for those seats to open up. It's so competitive. And had they had the degree back then, I probably would have pursued music business. But there was no such degree in 1989 to 1993. They were just starting to develop that as a degree. But so I had to go on and get my master's degree, and I just kind of fell into marketing and PR because I was working for
Wow.
an arts. Yeah. So that's what I ended up doing. I didn't do anything in music, but I have always had that artistic flair.
Yeah. And going into marketing and PR, because I recently found out that art heals. So, everyone has a story, and within this story, so many things happen to everybody in different ways, right? But I've
Mhm.
realized that a lot of people, without noticing it, because they were creative, they were able to start creating different things, whether it's in music and film, whatever it may be. And without them knowing, they were being safe because they were able to, in a way, let go little by little of the things that were hurting them. Do you agree with that?
Probably. I don't think I've ever really thought about it like that, but I would probably agree with that. Mhm.
Yeah. And so how was marketing for you?
I loved it. It really became my career, and up until about 6 years ago, well, even sooner than that, but I was in marketing and PR, for close to 30 years before I had to walk away from that. But I loved it. I thrived in it. I got to be artistic in a way because I got to work with a lot of different types of companies, on a lot of different campaigns. Um, and I was never like an artistic, like a graphic designer or anything like that, but I a lot of times worked with graphic designers and script writers and different things like that. So I got to have my fingers in some of that as a marketing and PR person. So that was fun, and I loved it for about 30 years.
That's amazing, because when you're creative, you have that vision, right?
Hmm.
And being able to see the vision by others putting it together, but you already saw it before that happens, is amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of
And
fun.
you're having a normal, yeah, and you're having a normal life, a lot of plans. You think you know where you're gonna go next, and then how did everything change? When was that day where you're like, okay, things are gonna shift, I'm gonna have to take a different path? How did it all happen?
Well, my story's a little unique because I had a major health crisis when I was 46. I had a stroke completely out of nowhere. I had never had a health problem in my life. And I had this stroke that sidelined me. And honestly, I was very lucky because we caught it super, super early. And I was able to get into the hospital very quickly and have clot removal surgery to remove the clots out of my brain. Um, and so physically, I was able to recover very quickly. Whereas when I was having the stroke, everything on the left side of my body was completely paralyzed. But as soon as I had the clot removal surgery, I was already starting to make some improvements. It only took me a few months to get everything back physically. But what I didn't expect was the mental health fallout of everything I'd been through. When you have a brain injury, a lot of times the biochemistry of your brain can change. And mine changed in such a way that I ended up with horrible, debilitating anxiety and depression and had to be hospitalized again for those conditions, not from stroke related physical disabilities. Um, and so
Wow.
that I had to slow way, way down in my career because I had to. I was sidelined because of a health crisis. And then as I was making my way back from that over the course of the next several years, I tried to go back to corporate and marketing and PR several times. And it just ended up, um, the cards aligned, I guess, or, the universe aligned in a way that I had to leave that. And I'm doing something completely different now.
Yeah. Can we go a little more in depth? Because maybe as we put this up there, someone that is going through this change watches it and can kind of begin to cope with that one day when you find yourself in the hospital. And you had kids when that happened? You
Yeah,
had
they were a little
children?
bit older, but yeah, I have kids. My
And
oldest
how
was
was
going,
it to oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said my oldest was just getting ready to start college, and my youngest was going into seventh grade at the time. So
Yeah.
they weren't
And
little.
you have, yeah, but there, right? So whenever you have children, you're like, you have plans, you have ideas, and you have that strength, I guess, that that can keep you pushing forward, but you weren't expecting it. So what were your thoughts when you while you were going through this and waiting for 911? What was the moment like?
I think it was really scary for everybody else. I was just confused, and I think in the back of my mind, I just thought, well, I'm not quite awake yet, because it happened as I was waking up in the morning, and I thought, well, maybe I'm just still half asleep. It just didn't feel real to me, and I didn't know enough to even be scared at the time. I didn't really want my kids to see the EMTs coming into our house first thing in the morning and me being, rushed to the hospital. My oldest son, who was getting ready to start college a few weeks later, was my husband got him into our room so that he could watch me while my husband called 911, because I kept trying to get out of the bed and my husband was afraid I was going to fall and hurt myself. And so he got my oldest son to come in and kind of hold me down so I would just stop trying to get up. My middle son woke up as the EMTs were taking me down the stairs, and my daughter, luckily, she slept through the whole thing, so she didn't have that memory of seeing me being taken out on a stretcher.
Yeah, and you wake up after the surgery, and you said that you were back to normal then, but what were your thoughts while you were there? Were you afraid that maybe that wasn't going to be the case?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I was back to normal. I did have movement again on the left side, but I couldn't do any. I had no strength on my left side. I had to do a lot of rehab on like my left hand, so that I could have fine motor skills. Because the first thing I could even do was like a thumbs up. I couldn't really even move the rest of my hand. But I took a picture in the hospital of giving the thumbs up like this with both thumbs. And that was a big deal for me to be able to do that. I guess I just always tackle everything like I'm going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. I was never that worried because I, I guess I didn't know any better. I mean, it was scarier for the folks in the waiting room, for my family and my friends in the waiting room, hearing that I had a stroke and that I was having brain surgery. Going through it, it just was, I don't know, just another morning. I don't know. It was definitely weird. Um, but I was so out of it that I didn't know to be scared.
Yeah, and it probably all happened too fast too, and it was like, okay, let's go to the next thing and the next thing, and then waking up there. But the one thing that surprised me when I read about you is what happens after, which is something that not a lot of people talk about. And there's no information as to what are the things that people have to go through after. So I'm assuming that there's a little bit less support than there should be for those people that have gone through these situations. So what is it like? You go home and obviously you're doing all these rehab sessions, but how is it that you start feeling down, depressed?
Yeah, so I went back to work less than 2 months after having a stroke. So I went back long before my short-term disability was over, which was a big mistake. That was mistake number one, because I thought they needed me at my job. I thought I needed to be there to continue my work, because I had just written my very first book. It was a marketing book. And I wanted to get back to work so that I could edit it and get it all lined up with the publisher and done and off my plate. And I really didn't want my coworkers messing with it. I wanted to be the one to get back and finish it up. But I put so much pressure on myself to go back to work. And I think everyone can relate to this. I'd always been kind of a workaholic my whole life and have always gotten a lot of value and satisfaction and fulfillment out of my job. And it's kind of how I saw myself. It was part of my identity. And getting hit with such horrible post-stroke anxiety and post-stroke depression was such a surprise, because nobody was talking about it. I even brought it up to my neurologist a few months into my recovery, because it was just so foreign to me. And I knew that something happened during my stroke. Something happened to my brain. I just needed confirmation that the stroke caused this. instead of just thinking that I was failing somehow or that I just wasn't strong enough to deal with it. I just needed an answer. And my original neurologist completely dismissed me and said, "Oh, your issues are psychological, not neurological. I can't help you." And that was a huge, huge blow to me. And it was just so condescending and just demoralizing. And I knew in my gut that the stroke caused this because I didn't have these issues before. And I all of a sudden wake up and I have this horrible anxiety and horrible depression when frankly, I didn't have reason to be. I mean, nothing like sometimes you figure people are depressed because they have disabilities. They're maybe in a wheelchair, maybe they can't talk after a stroke. But I didn't have those things. I had all of my physical abilities. I just had depression and anxiety. Nobody was talking about it. I didn't have any place to turn to learn about post-stroke anxiety and post-stroke depression. I mean, even when I asked my neurologist, he dismissed me. So I felt like I was alone. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, my sisters, we've always it runs in my family to have some mental health challenges. And both of my sisters had dealt with it in their lives previously. I had not. And they just immediately swooped into action, saw that I was losing grip on reality. I was losing grip on who I was, wasn't really even able to function anymore. And they helped me get into a psychiatrist. And I eventually got admitted to two in-house inpatient facilities and got the help I needed after that. I had to go through a lot of therapy, a lot of medication, trial and error to figure out what medications would work best for me in my mental health. Took a couple of years to really feel like I was in a good place mentally. And that was really, really tough. And I was so hard on myself because I wasn't able to go back to work. And I eventually ended up on long-term disability. And when you are, when you're kind of a workaholic or you've always been you've always had your identity so closely tied with your career. So you've got enmeshed with your career. And when that career feels like maybe it's gone forever, I lost myself. I had this huge identity crisis. And I ended up writing a book about that. I wrote a book about the mental health impact of having a stroke because there weren't resources like that out there for me when I was going through it. So I thought, well, I might as well create it. And then the identity crisis, because I don't care if your career is cut short because you've had a health crisis or you were unfairly removed from a job or you retired or what the circumstances are. But when you lose a big part of yourself like that for circumstances beyond your control, it's extremely difficult to come to terms with that and to get your arms around that. But we have to remember life is so much more than work. We have so much more value to bring and so much more to give than just our work product. And that was probably the biggest lesson for me that came out of all of this.
Yeah. The thing is, this information is definitely not something that we hear often. We do hear about strokes. Be careful if your left arm is hurting, if you're the left side of your face. So many things out there, but nothing tells you that there will be this feeling of not being okay after it. And also what's not very known is the transitional coaches, which are people that actually help you to go from where you used to be at to whatever it is that you have to transition to and help you work through it. Because it's shocking, like you said, you were a workaholic. It was expected that you would not feel okay after such an amazing change. It's powerful. And how did you get the strength? What was it like? Was it a day where you were like, okay, I'm making the decision to turn this pain to something that can serve others? Or what was it like whenever you said, this is it, I'm going to do that rather than continue hurting only?
And I wish I could tell you there was this magical moment where I just said, okay, I'm going to turn this into, I'm going to turn lemons into lemonade. But it really didn't happen that way. I almost took my own life. And the night that it got so dark and so scary for me, it's not like the fact that I decided not to do that was my aha moment. It was definitely a turning point, but I didn't know it at the time. Uh, I think I've just had to be resilient my entire life, starting with my parents' divorce when I was 4, and then my stepfather's death, and I was divorced at age 35, a single mom of 3 kids, trying to juggle work and being a mom to 3 little kids. And I think I've just learned over the course of my life to just develop resilience, and just to know that every challenge is a chance to either quit or keep going. And in life, we don't have that many choices. We have to keep going. And I don't know where the strength came from. It's just something that I was lucky enough to have. And obviously had a really strong support system, and that is also very key. I have a very close family. I have a husband who loves me. He's my second husband. I have kids that love me. I have siblings. My parents were still alive at the time, and both of them. And I just, I was very, very lucky to have such a strong support system. The crazy thing, and I'm going to go back just for a second, when I was in the hospital the day after my stroke, or it was either the afternoon of my stroke or the next day, I was on Facebook. I was returning work calls. I felt like I needed to show up. I still felt like I needed to show up. Ridiculous. But
I mean, that was life, that was life. That's why it's so powerful, because it seems to me, maybe it's not how it was, but it seems to me that whatever it could be for you, right? God, the universe, whatever it is, was preparing you for this moment from your early ages, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to take such strong change, such strong journey, and usually when that happens, some people choose to lead others and help others out with their journey, and that's where the power comes from.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think when
But
I really decided to start to really focus on taking my time and really focusing on helping other people, other stroke survivors go through what I went through, was when I had a little bit of time to focus on it. Like, so once I got laid off from my most recent job at T-Mobile in September, I felt like I kind of had, okay, I have this permission, I have this time to reflect on me and what really matters to me. And do I want to keep beating my head against the wall trying to go back into corporate? Or do I want to strike out on my own and do something different, something more aligned with who I am, who my values, and now what's going to bring me fulfillment in life? And I had already started speaking to stroke survivor support groups, talking to them about post-stroke anxiety and post-stroke depression. And as I was doing so, it was so clear that we all were lacking resources, but every single group I spoke to, and maybe it would be 6 people in the room, at least 1 out of 6 would say, "Oh yeah, I had that." But I didn't know what to do. Nobody told me where to go or what to do because of it. So once I started having the dialogue with people like me, I realized that there was just so much more to be done and so much more to talk about, because just with mental health, for any reason whatsoever, we have to remove the stigma. We have to get people talking. And we also have to make people know they're not alone and there is help. I mean, for me, at one point with my psychiatrist, when I was at my darkest point and I really thought I was going to take my life, I didn't think that anything would ever fix me because my brain was so messed up. My psychiatrist said, "Angie, we will figure this out together. We will solve this." And just having somebody say, "We will do this and we'll do it together," just gave me so much hope and just made me feel so good. And so now I enjoy being able to do that for other people. And I meet new stroke survivors every day. I work part-time at the American Stroke Foundation doing some communications work for them. So I'm still I've got my toes in the water of communications and marketing still a little bit, but just on the side.
yeah. And the thing is, I think it's important to make it known and get the word out there that this is a thing, that depression, anxiety after having a stroke is a thing. However, someone that has never experienced it would have a harder time really understanding the person that's going through it or give any advice or support in general. So it's nice that people that have gone through it are there for you whenever you're going through the transition. What about medicine? How does medicine come into this area?
Yeah. Yes. Good question. I am a big proponent of medicine if you need it. And I was one of those and am one of those people who need medications because I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. And mine was caused by my stroke. But I have a lot of family members who have always, all their life, struggled with chemical imbalances in their brain. And if you need medication, if it's going to keep you alive, do it. The hard part with medication, and I'll be honest, I take like 3 different medications for anxiety and depression, and I still do to this day, 6.5 years after my first stroke. Um, and that's how I manage my mental health. That's how I know I can stay strong and stay ahead of anything that comes my way. I also do a lot on my own to manage my day to day to keep my mental health sharp and steady. So when I got laid off from my job, I could have said, oh gosh, here's another kick in the pants. Why me? Why do I have to go through so much? I could have been very down on myself. That could have really kicked me back into a deep depression or caused a ton of anxiety. And I won't say that there were moments of sadness and there were moments of anxiety, because there were. That's normal. That's life. But because I was finally on the right combination of medicines that worked with my brain, I was able to handle it just like I had never had a mental health issue in my life. Uh, so if you need medication, and that's the thing, my primary care physician had tried to prescribe a couple of different kind of just general anti-anxiety, anti-depression meds. I needed a higher level, a higher class of medications, I guess you call them. So I needed to go see a psychiatrist who specializes in psych meds and kind of knows how to combine certain ones together to have a higher or bigger punch. And it took, like I said, it took probably a good year for me to get that combination right. And now I've been taking almost those same medications for like 6 years. And I'm kind of afraid to mess with the cocktail because I don't want to upset the apple cart. I don't want to do anything that messes with my mental health. Whenever you've been in a really dark spot, like when you are really so sick, or when your brain is so sick that you consider taking your life, that's so scary. And for me, I can never go back there. So I will probably be on medications for my mental health for the rest of my life. And that's okay.
You know what's crazy is that a lot of people that would be very good by having a psychologist or psychiatrist take a look at them, stay away from them, because they think, oh, if you're going to go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you're crazy. But it's never the case. Like, these are people that will help and support with your mental health, which is important. It's important to have an open mind, especially when you're not feeling well. You need to speak about it so that you get the help, the necessary help. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's beyond the expertise of our primary care physicians because that's not necessarily their specialty. So they know what they know, but they know they're also not experts in psych meds, whereas psychiatrists only deal with psychiatric medications, and that's their whole livelihood, and they know it and understand it backwards and forwards. And I was very lucky to find a really great psychiatrist, somebody who I trust now with my life. And yeah, it's scary. Is it scary going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist? Yes. And a lot of people, depending on kind of, I guess, what generation you grew up in or even your gender, because men can be more reluctant to go get help. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you would go to the hospital, you would go to the doctor if you were sick with bronchitis, or if you had a nasty flu or something else, you would go see a doctor. So if your brain is sick, you need to go see a brain doctor and go get the help that you need. There's no difference.
Yeah. What about meditation? Have you tried meditation?
Yes, and I do about 10
Does that
minutes of
help?
meditation. Yes, every day. I do about 10 minutes every single day. And if I don't, if I get up and I my day has to start really quickly and I don't have time for it, or I don't make time for it, I can tell a difference. So I do at least 10 minutes every day. That's what I try to do because it's one of the tools in my toolbox to manage my mental health on a daily basis.
And I'm sure a couple of people will wonder this. What about natural medicine? Is there anything such as natural medicine for depression or anxiety when it comes to this kind?
There definitely are. And the first natural medicine is fresh air and sunlight. You, our bodies need that. And so it's important to get sunshine on your face, to get fresh air, to be outside in nature. I think part of the reason why we have such a mental health crisis in the US is we spend so much time inside and we just don't get that fresh air that we, for centuries have gotten as human beings. And CBD helped me manage my anxiety and
Hmm.
depression to an extent. I still needed my medications, but as medications can't do all of it. They can't just completely knock it out completely. So sometimes so CBD helped me to an extent, the kind without THC in it, um, helped me get a handle on some of my mental health problems. But I know there are a lot of others. I'm not an expert in that, but whatever you can do to, if you need all natural or if you need to go with psych meds, I mean, do what you have to do to stay alive, please, and to get past it because we all have a great life we can live when our mental health is back to being strong and healthy. Because when you are thinking about taking your own life, you are sick. You are sick. It's a sickness, and it is just and your brain is lying to you and telling you all these horrible, horrible things. And just don't believe your brain when you're in that. Just don't believe your brain. Go talk to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or somebody who can help you see that your brain is lying to you.
Yeah. How do you deal with this when it comes to having a partner, your husband, for example? Whenever you are at your darkest times, how is he able to know? Is there a strategy that you guys have so that you can cope with this? How have you kind of figured that out?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was really hard because it hit both of us out of the blue. He wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared. He hadn't dealt with anything like this before and certainly hadn't dealt with it with me until it happened. And like you said, if you haven't gone through it or been close to somebody that's gone through it, it's very hard to understand. It's very, very difficult. For me, even, I had seen my sisters struggle with their mental health as I was growing up. I have an older sister who was very anxious and had suffered with horrible, debilitating anxiety most of her adult life. And I used to sit there and say, like, why are you anxious? You don't have anything to be anxious about. I don't understand. And I couldn't understand until you go through it and you realize it's not just being stressed. It's not just being sad. It's not just having a down day. It's when you find absolutely no joy in anything and things that used to bring you a lot of joy, you no longer can feel it and you desperately want to. So when people say things like just smile more or just put on a happy face or fake it till you make it, those are not helpful strategies for somebody suffering with mental health crisis because we want to be better. We don't want to feel this way. And sometimes just the fight to feel better is very just physically painful. My mom once asked me, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to have this anxiety? And I was really mad at her when she asked me that because it's almost impossible to explain. But I finally said, you know that feeling when you're almost in a car accident and you just, as soon as you realize you're
Mhm.
safe, your body just kind of freezes up and tightens up. That's how you feel when you have chronic anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder. And it doesn't go away. It's like that all day, every day. And it's very exhausting and it's just painful to the body. It feels like you've got a ton of bricks on your chest or just like you're just in that heightened sense of just stress. That's the only way I could describe it. And then with depression, for me, it wasn't even that I was sad. I was devoid of all emotion, all emotion. And I've always been a very emotional, happy-go-lucky person. I used to be able to cry at commercials. And then, I had nothing. I was just flatlined on my emotions. I mean, it was right before Christmas when I was hospitalized for mental health issues. And I could not, once I got out, I could not bring myself to decorate the Christmas tree or wrap any presents. I just was exhausted. I just wanted to lay in bed all day or lay on the couch all day and do nothing. But because I had anxiety and depression at the same time, which is really, really horrendous, my anxiety is telling me, get up, do all this stuff. And my depression is just not letting me. And it was like these two warring factions in my brain. And I'm like, God, it was so hard. It was so hard and exhausting. But for my husband, thankfully, he's so patient, and my sisters were there to help him and support him. And I had family support, so he wasn't doing it all on his own. But he did reach out to my network of friends and just, kind of trying to get a little help for himself to come have lunch with me or, to spend time with me so that he could get just a little bit of a break, because he still had to work and support the family and take care of himself while he was trying to take care of me and take care of our family. It's very, very difficult on the loved one and the family. I don't wish it on anybody. Yeah.
I bet. And these are things that when we don't go through them, we don't think about. So it's always amazing to get this information out there, because if we do have a family member that experiences it, or we do, then we're aware of the consequences that this causes. You turn this into something amazing, which is giving. And I do believe that as you write and as you speak, as you do all these things, you are healing yourself little by little, even without considering it. Yeah. So you became a coach. And I want to ask you, what is your definition of happiness?
I think it's just loving yourself and knowing that you are enough. You don't have to put on a show for the world or for yourself. It's just, having grace, giving yourself grace, and just trying to enjoy the little things, because life is made up of all the little moments. And, I used to think that I would strive for all the bigger, better things. I was always after that next promotion or that next raise or that next title increase, and just chasing that stuff for so many years. I realized, it never ends. It's never good enough. You just want more and more and more. And it was like when life forced me to slow down, I realized it's all about the little moments, the moments I get to spend with my kids and now with my grandkids and just with my family. That's what happiness is being able to build a life that and somebody said this to me once and I thought it was profound. Building a life that you don't have to escape from. So you're not just living you're not just living vacation to vacation. I don't feel like I have to escape from my life. I don't ever feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go on vacation. I have to get away. I don't feel that way anymore. And it feels really freeing. It's kind of foreign, but it's really freeing.
I love that you also said, it's those moments. I've always thought that happiness is not necessarily a place that you arrive at, but it's just those times where you feel like your heart is bigger than your body. Maybe it's something that a family member smiled because something happened, or all of a sudden you win a $3 thing from a scratcher, and it's like, oh my goodness. It's like those little, it's like sometimes they're like the dumb things, but sometimes it's like the more powerful. Someone giving, like my sister giving birth and seeing that baby for the first time. It's like, or my nephew just doing something crazy. It's like the little moments, and it's a recollection of those things that we can call happiness, rather than feeling that we have to arrive at a place and get to a place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that I've noticed,
sorry.
yeah, as a woman, is that as time goes by, we begin to change, right? Not like you made a huge change all of a sudden, but we go from being young into this age where we're getting older and older and older. And sometimes we're trying to stay as young as possible, as much as we possibly can, but we don't realize that within change, every single stage in life is beautiful and it comes with so many gifts. What would you say is a trick or a tip to transition into this, let's say into your 40s?
Probably to stop worrying about what anybody else thinks about you. I mean, really, there's nothing you ever do to be able to change somebody's opinion of you, and why bother yourself with it? So I think, I was always trying to either fit in or make a name for myself or something like that. And I think, or to be thin and to be, to be attractive, or to have, the the nicer car, or live in the nicer zip code or something like that. It's just, why does it matter? It doesn't matter, so just to stop worrying about what people think of you. And I think naturally, like you said, as we get older, we just start to learn not to care so much. I mean, not to give it so much, stock. Just the older you get, maybe. And also, I think that's the great thing about aging, is the more you age, the less you give a crap. You're just like, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be me. If you don't like it, too bad. I am who I am. You are who you are. We can get along just fine without having to pick each other apart. And as women, we need to stop picking each other apart and just lift each other up, because we're our own worst critics. The voice in our head is worse than any voice that we could ever hear from external. We're so mean to ourselves. Why do we do that? Why? And we have to stop.
Yeah. And you touched on an important subject too. I love working. I love working. And I'm an immigrant, so I extra love working. And I see that the women that surround me do as well. And you going through what you went through, would you suggest that there's a place where one needs to maybe not take a break, but reevaluate how you're conducting your life when it comes to work? What are your thoughts on that?
I think if you drop everything else because of work consistently, so if you're missing your kids' events, if you're missing family events, if you're staying late all the time, if you are having trouble sleeping because you can't stop thinking about work, then something is out of balance. And usually this. Usually in your gut, it. You might not consciously know it, but you'll start having health problems that you have nowhere to go because your body can't sustain that. And your soul knows what it needs. Your soul knows you need love. You need those relationships and connections in your life that you honestly will not get from work. So it's easier said than done. It sounds simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy to do, especially if you've always been, somebody who loves work. I still do. And I'm not even really probably one to talk, because now I will still, if I'm in a project, I will sit in my project for 12 straight hours without getting up, unless I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm just like, but I got to figure this out. I got to figure it out. And so being able to just take a breath and realize, hey, look at what's going on around you. There's a whole beautiful life that you're probably missing out on. And I look back, and I was working so much when my kids were little and growing up. I was traveling a lot, especially when I was divorced. And my sisters were kind of helping raise my kids because I was out of town a lot. And I missed some really important moments because of work. And I'm kind of angry at myself now because of it. Because looking back, you can't get that time back. And it goes way too fast. I still feel like I should have an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old at home. and mine are 25, 23, and 20. I mean, it goes that fast. It really does. And you don't get
You know
that time.
what happens is that for some reason the spotlight is fully on whatever it is that you're focusing on, and then life is just going without stopping. I wanted to know also, what do you think that confidence is a fake it or make it until you make it sort of thing? If let's say that you lack a little bit of confidence, would you suggest that fake it till you make it works?
I don't, and I hate that saying because I think
Yeah.
that puts a lot of pressure on you. The key to confidence is having the willingness to try. So it's being willing to try to do something, because confidence comes from competency. So if have competency in something that you're doing, you will automatically have more confidence. So if you want to build confidence, you should focus on what you want to be competent at and to develop that competency, which means trying, learning something new, putting yourself out there. It's stepping over your fear to get to what you want, and that's what confidence is, true confidence. I don't like the fake it till you make it saying, because I think faking it in any part of life is a bad idea. I think it'll come back to bite you.
Yeah, you said it right. It puts too much pressure on you.
Yeah,
Most
because if you're
definitely.
faking it is a lie, right? So, and it's hard to keep your lies straight. And something within your gut is going to tell you you're faking this. You're not being true to yourself. And it won't let you get away with it for very long. So why even do it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You wrote your book, the latest one,
Mm-hmm.
and what would be the most important message from this book?
Anybody can be resilient. Resilience is also a skill. So is confidence. It's a skill that can be learned and built. It's not just something you're born with. I mean, there are some people that probably have a little bit more, I don't know, aptitude for it, but it's a skill and everybody can learn to build it, because it really starts with a mindset shift. And our brains believe what we tell it. So tell it the things that you want to achieve your goals. So tell it positive things, fill it with positive things. I'm not trying to be all Pollyanna. I'm just saying our brains don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. They just know what we tell it and what we repeat. So if you put, positive affirmations on repeat in your brain, you're going to start believing those things. So I am a big believer in positive affirmations, like self affirmations every day. And
Mm,
telling yourself that if you want to be successful, for instance, or you want to lose weight, telling yourself that you are losing weight, telling yourself that you are doing it, that you are equipped, that you are able, that you are committed. Tell yourself these things, because your brain will start to believe it, and then your actions will follow. Because everything
mm.
starts with a thought, and then from our thoughts, we really do create our world. So pay attention to your thoughts.
Yeah, pay attention to what you're attracting, to what
Mm-hmm.
we're attracting. I love this. G, what is one thing that you had to quit in order to become successful?
I had to quit putting myself down. I had to quit
Mm,
trying to be perfect. I grew up all my life just always saying I was a perfectionist, always wanting to be perfect in everything I did. And I used to kind of wear perfectionism as a badge of honor. I thought, well, everything I produce has a touch of gold. Everything I produce has to be the highest quality, or I won't produce it. But that put a lot of undue stress on myself. And that, you know, you create expectations that nobody can fulfill. So I had to stop expecting perfection from myself and being so hard on myself.
wonderful. What is like to go on an appointment with a life coach? The first appointment, what is it like?
Well, it's really a conversation. I try to get to know my my clients on a personal level, I really want to understand, because I do work with stroke survivors, other female stroke survivors mainly. And I know that every single stroke is different. No two strokes are alike, so no two stroke survivors are alike. I really want to dig in and understand who she is as a woman and what she's looking to gain out of her life. And then really, a coach is not somebody who gives you the answers. It's not somebody who tells you what to do and exactly how to get there. We're there to help you figure out the answers for you. We're there to help guide you and be your cheerleader and to give you a nudge in the right direction. So really to kind of dig in to what's holding you back and figure out how to kind of break those chains and establish new thinking patterns and habits. And a lot of times what I do once I get into coaching with my clients is really help them set goals and then develop plans, action plans to achieve those goals. You know, anybody who's been working for a while, you probably have like an action plan at work of things that you need to accomplish. But a lot of people don't take the time to figure out the action plan for their life, because our life is in our control. And I mean, not everything, obviously. You can't predict health crisis and other things like that. But for the most part, we're in control of our lives and the path that we are on and can take in our lives. And so it really is a great exercise to sit back and understand really where your values are, what drives you as a person, as a soul, and just strip your career out of it, take that out of it. Who are you as a person? What are your values? What are your deepest desires? What do you truly want in your life? At the end of your life, when you look back, how will you know it's a success? Now, if you're going to sit here and tell me, well, at the end, on my deathbed, if I've made $5 million, I'll know I had a successful life. Fine, so be it. But I doubt very many people on this planet would say that. So if that's not in alignment with what you want to be looking back on at the end of your life, then now is the time to change it. And everybody can do it. All it takes is deciding to do it and then taking small actions in that direction. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to climb a mountain in a day. Small actions in the right direction will lead you to your goal. But some people lose track of their goals. You set a goal, and like that's why so many people can't follow their New Year's resolutions, because you set this goal, but you don't have an action plan to follow through. Or you set these goals.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so big.
Yeah, we can
I think that's why it's so powerful.
Sorry.
I think that's why it's so powerful to have a coach, because they bring you back to where you were at. You know, it's the accountability part that makes it so powerful, but also a broader vision of the entire thing. Because sometimes we just see whatever's next, the next step.
Yeah, they help you get out of your own way. I've had several coaches that I've hired throughout my life, and thank God for them, because I've taken any time in my life when I've taken a really big leap, it's because I've had a coach in my corner that helped me see my worth and follow that and take the leap. But sometimes you just need somebody that believes in you and understands what you want out of life, just to give you that extra little push.
Yeah. And are you doing group coaching at all as of now?
I'm looking into starting some. I haven't been doing it because I've only been doing this officially since September. But I definitely see the value in doing some group coaching. I started out not wanting to do group coaching because, like I said, stroke survivors, everyone is so different and on a different, piece of their journey, or different time span of their journey. But I do think group coaching is probably on my list for what's next for me. Because I've sat in on some really awesome group coaching calls. You can get coaching by osmosis. So if you're hearing somebody else get coached, you learn coaching from that too. It applies to you and you take from that. So it really helps to sit in on a group coaching session and hear other people getting coached, because you're also by default getting coached.
I'm assuming it's like AA meetings. Everyone has a different story in a different background, but you hear their stories and you're like, okay, well, we're not the same, but we're kind of similar, and they're going through a difficult time too. So we can do it. It's going to happen. Good for you. Well, it's been amazing to get to know you and to hear your story. And I look forward to reading your book for sure. And how empowering. And I hope you continue pushing forward and making a difference. Sometimes you don't see it because you're the person doing it, but outsiders do and understand the power of someone choosing to step out of their comfort zone to give rather than, just waiting to see where life is going to take you next. So I thank you for all those people that you have helped and the ones that you're going to help.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel really good. I appreciate that feedback, and I really appreciate your support and encouragement. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for watching another episode of Successful Quitters. We'll see you on the next one. And by the way, before I leave, we're going to put all the links right under the video so that you can get a hold of G. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Thank you.